There's a story that's untold. Hey, my lyrical content's God sent with the mission to conquer.
Good evening, namaste. Welcome to another session with This Happy Guru. My name is Kirsty Bentley-Taylor. And tonight I'm going to be talking to you about the universal laws that we are all subject to. Don't know whether you know anything about the universal laws. I've had them in my kind of spectrum, I suppose, for a few years. You know, I've been aware of things like the law of attraction. Seems to have been a kind of big push in the law of attraction in the esoteric field, if you like. Everybody beginning to realize that actually you can work this universal law to your own advantage, and how that, because it permeates through all the other universal laws, it's a really good one to kind of focus in on. So I'd heard and I read about the law of attraction, but it wasn't until I was doing some research on changing the patterns of your thoughts, changing belief systems and those sorts of things, that I really began to come across the 7 universal laws. And then I came across 12 spiritual laws as well, 12 universal spiritual laws. So this kind of sparked my interest. I was like, oh, I didn't realize there were so many. I didn't realize there was a difference between universal laws and universal spiritual laws. And so I've been doing a lot of research on that over the past few days, and drawing my awareness into it, and really drawing lots of parallels in with a lot of teachings from my yogic studies, a lot of stuff from Buddhism as well. Also some kind of more obvious things as well that you just almost know that these laws exist without really being consciously aware of them. So things like duality, for example, very, very aware, the law of polarity. You're very aware of duality, the nature of duality, which permeates through everything. You know, for example, hot and cold. Really, it's just one thing, it's temperature. But there is that duality, that is that polarity between the intenseness of a heat, a boiling hot heat, and a freezing cold. But essentially, they're part of the one construct. They're part of something that we call temperature, that measurement, if you like, of a feeling, of a sense of a temperature of something. So today I thought I would go through some really basic stuff. I don't want to kind of clutter up too much about the universal laws, but I wanted to touch on these universal laws, the 7 universal laws that we're all subject to, and that indeed everything is subject to as well. So this isn't just stuff that affects human beings. This affects all matter. This affects atoms. This affects energy. This affects everything. Like, you know, these laws permeate through everything, and so it's fascinating. Or I found it fascinating, and I hope that you will as well, as we go through them today. And then I'm going to go through the spiritual laws as well, because they kind of integrate in with things as well, but they ask you to look at things from a more personal point of view as well, and how it is that perhaps you as a soul are responding to life on this earth, which is really interesting. It's an interesting concept to begin to think of yourself as a soul. We're so used to thinking ourselves as a personality, as an ego, as something that we're building on, as something that we are, improving, if you like, every day, when essentially we were all born with everything that we need to be able to manifest whatever it is that we want. It's just that we've never been enabled in that sense. We've been instead conditioned into ways of thinking that enable control of our lives and of our power to be given to other people, and to be given to the different constructs in society that we've all been subject to for millennia. These constructs have been built up over time and adjusted to suit agendas, shall we say. Where those agendas come from is probably another show, but I wanted to talk to this about this today. I've also been making notes about, perhaps as I've been reading through things and watching videos and all this sort of thing, I've been making notes as well about how it is that we can adjust our reaction to some of the laws. These universal laws have very distinct rules that are attached to them, but there are ways that you can navigate through, slight differences that you can make to enable yourself to really harness these laws, these universal laws and these spiritual laws, to be able to gain real benefit from them and moving forward. One of the things that permeates through all of the stuff that I've been reading, though, is how in control of all of this stuff we are if we choose to focus our attention on it. And then again, we're back to like the law of attraction. But that everything in this universe is energy. Everything is vibrating. Everything has a resonance, has a vibe, has a vibration. And if we choose to align ourselves with that vibration, we can indeed attract whatever it is that we've aligned ourselves with, or whatever that vibration is also being held by another matter, whether that be an emotion, whether it be a physical manifestation of something, whether it be a need, whether it be an abundance, whatever it is. If we align ourselves with that vibration, then like attracts like. Energy naturally gravitates towards something that is its like. It recognizes something that's vibrating at the same frequency as it, and it's drawn to it by that. So the idea that like attracts like, and the idea of the law of attraction because of that, and that everything is subject to this because everything is energy, is really the kind of the permeating belief system through the universal laws, and indeed the universal spiritual laws that we're going to be discussing now. So try to keep that in your mind as well, that ultimately speaking, as an energy being, which you are, which we all are, we can control these laws, we can manifest, we can work these laws to our own advantage. And so let's learn about them a little bit more today and see what it is and where it is that we could take ourselves by harnessing the power of some of these laws and just aligning ourselves slightly, aligning our belief systems, aligning our thought processes, so that we can really begin to take hold of it, hold of this idea, and walk forward with this as an empowerment, as a knowledge, as a tool to be able to achieve whatever it is that we want to achieve in our lives. Okay, so I'm going to start with the 7 universal laws. And first of all, I'm going to go through the explanation of the 7 universal laws. So we're going to start with explaining the immutable and the mutable. So of the 7 universal laws, the first 3 are immutable. The first thing that I'm going to read out are immutable. Eternal laws. Okay, so these have governed space and time. They aren't subject to time. They know no construct. They are absolute and can never be changed or transcended. Okay, so these are absolute truths. Okay, they have always existed and will always exist. The other 4 laws are transitory, mutable laws, meaning that they can be transcended or at least better used to create your ideal reality. So the first 3 you just have to get a hold of and almost work within them, because there's no changing them, there's no altering them for your own benefit, nothing. However, they are there for your own benefit. They are there as a guideline, as a lifeline, if you like, to be able to hold on to, knowing that once you've got a control, once you learn how it is that you can navigate around these laws or within these laws, then you have empowered yourself using them. Okay. This is not to say that you should ignore the 4 laws, these last 4, or attempt to defy them, or even if you do, they will still govern your existence. Your aim is to master each of the 7 universal laws and then only learn to transcend the mutable ones. Okay, so you learn them all and then transcend through or navigate through the mutable ones, the last 4. So we're going to start with the first 3, the immutable. Okay, the first one is of mentalism. This is completely immutable. So this in itself is huge, especially with what I've been discussing over the last few weeks. We've been discussing a lot about emotional health, how it transcends into the physical. Last week we dealt with hypnotherapy, talking to my friend Alexander Water, and how it is that hypnotherapy is essentially a construct of being able to adjust the limiting beliefs that you've set for yourself, the thought patterns that you've set for yourself through experience, through perception of the world, and readjust them so that they alter and affect your life immediately. Okay, so the first one is the law of mentalism, first of the 7 universal laws. This tells us that all is in the mind. The universe is mental in a good way. That everything we see and experience in our physical world has its origin in the invisible mental realm. So it all starts with a thought. Okay. It tells us that there is a single universal consciousness, the universal mind, from which all things manifest. So the same way that we would construct or manifest anything that we want in our lives, it starts with that initial thought, that inspiration, that drop in, whatever you choose to call it. As a part of the one, as a part of the universal consciousness, as a part of the higher consciousness, the one omnipresence that is, you accept yourself as that, and you recognize that there is something greater than you, almost, that you're a part of, that is already managing everything that's going on in your mind. So the drop-ins, the inspiration, everything that you have are coming to you for an absolute reason. This is why it's so, so important to be able to almost clear your mind and receive these messages clearly, without negativity, without preconception, without any preconceived notion of what it is that should be happening. Okay, anything that you feel should be happening is really coming from your ego. It's coming from your sense of personality, your sense of self that you've built up through your belief systems, through education, through family, through influence, not through higher consciousness, not through what we may call the divine, not through this universal consciousness, this oneness, this one omnipresence that is and will always be flowing through everything. Okay, so there is essentially one thing managing everything. And if you clear the ego, if you let go of the idea that things should be a certain way and that you have control over those things, in the fact that, you know, if you want something, it should go your way, you know, then you can begin to really work within this rule and let go of any preconceptions, any thoughts of the future, any thoughts of the past, because in all reality, everything is just in the now. And if you are present in the now, that's at the point where you can receive any of this stuff. Okay, that's at the point when you are in fact connected. If you're fully present in the now, fully conscious in the now, that is exactly when you'll be able to receive the messages that you are being given in that now, in that time, and then you begin to work through that. Because remember, to manifest something is to think, then to speak, and then to action. Okay, so it's a case of thought, receiving the inspiration, for example, saying to yourself or saying out to the world or writing down, or however it is that you choose to kind of move this through the construct of affirmation, which is essentially your speech, your you know, your even it's an internal speech, even if it begins a dialogue, right? This is your thought process moving into your speech, into your word. Okay, and your word is your bond in some respects. So whether you choose to then criticize that thought coming in, or whether you choose to run with it and take the next thing and do the next thing, which of course is action, then if you're taking the inspiration and you think to yourself, yes, and then you jump into action, that is manifesting the divine. Okay, that is living truly in the now, and that is where the magic really begins to happen. So all the energy and matter at all levels is created and is subordinate to the omnipresent universal mind. Your mind is part of the universal mind, the same in the kind, with the only difference being 1 degree. Your reality is a manifestation of your mind. This is true mind power. Okay, so this is what I mean by when you drop in right to the second, right into the moment, and then you begin to actually act on it. That is mind power. That is taking the power of your mind, that direct connection with the omnipresence, with the universal oneness, and acting out through that. So effectively working the work of the divine. You know, you're being almost a channel through for the wishes of the oneness, of the divine, of God, if you like, of the universe. However it is that you choose to express that, that's what you'll be doing. The next law is the law of correspondence. Again, this is an immutable law. So this is something that you can't change. This is as is. This is a truth that we need to recognize about ourselves. The law of correspondence, which is the second of the universal laws, tells us as above, so below, as above. This means that there is harmony, agreement, and correspondence between the physical, mental, and spiritual realms. There is no separation, since everything in the universe, including you, originates from the one source. So everything that you are is divine. Everything that you are is part of the oneness. When you look at your physicality, you're looking at the very, very tiniest part of you, these tiny little atoms. Well, atoms make up pretty much everything. Okay? You are the same in that respect as fish in the sea, as the plants outside your window, as the mountains that you may have climbed, you know, all that sort of stuff. Everything is made from atoms. And so recognizing that correspondence, that link between everything that you are and everything that was all around you, that is an immutable law. There is no separation, since everything in the universe originates from the one source. The same pattern is expressed on all planes of existence, from the smallest electron to the largest star, and vice versa. See, that's lovely, I think. I think it's lovely to be able to align yourself with something as almost untouchable, as unreachable as the stars. You know, we know from scientific evidence and all the stuff that scientists have proved how very, very far that, you'll never be able to touch it. You'll never be able to see it. You'll never be able to hold it. You'll never have any real direct connection with it, other than the fact that it's up there, omnipresent almost, over your life, twinkling away, and visual, and able to be visualized when there's no clouds or anything like that. But you know they're there. It's an omnipresence. You know it's always there. It's always going to be there throughout our lifetimes, as short as they are on this earth. All is one. The ancient Greek temple of Apollo in Delphi was referring to this great law of correspondence in the inscription, "Know thyself, and thou shalt know all the mysteries of the gods and the universe." Gives you another perspective on why it's so important to do all this self-work, right? Why it's important to really get to know the inner workings of your physical self, your mental, your intellectual self, and your spiritual self, and how your emotions and everything construct and all those sorts of things. You know, the complexity of the human form as its entirety, in its holistic form, is so inspiring in itself that it's almost like, why wouldn't you want to know about yourself? Why wouldn't you be fascinated with the form that you've taken in this lifetime and what it is that you can manifest through this? So this is another immutable law. This is something that is, it just is, it's a truth. It's something that you know, we just accept, and then we can begin to realize the greatness of ourselves and the importance of getting to know ourselves, and the importance of really delving down deep inside yourself and recognizing the amazing, amazing thing, person, individual, energy, light source that you are. The next immutable law, the third one, so the final one, is the law of vibration. So this one says that the whole universe is but a vibration. So the whole universe is a wave, if you like. Okay, it is, if you can kind of visualize vibration. Whenever I visualize vibration, I often think of the little, you know, on the old equalizers, the old equalized things, and there's music going up, it's going up and down, and it's kind of vibrating through. And like the lines of your heart, for example, on a heart monitor, you know, that is, for me, is kind of like the visualization of a vibration. But as you know, with anything sonic, there are higher vibrations, tiny, tiny, tiny vibrations, and lower set vibrations. And depending on the energy that you're expressing at that time, you can hear this vibration change within your voice. You can see the vibrational change within your physicality. You can see the vibrational change within the connection that you have with people that you're connecting with. So you can really begin to alter people's perceptions of yourself by raising your vibration and talking about something, for example, that you're really, really passionate about. That's going to take you into a high vibration. And then you're going to draw that high vibration up because, of course, energy attracts energy, like attracts like. And you may put people off if they can't vibe with you, if they don't understand, if they feel negative in any way, shape or form to what you're feeling. So, for example, if I'm talking and I'm really, really passionate about the spiritual stuff that fascinates me and really draws me passionately into my life and into learning, into everything that I do. If I'm talking to somebody who's not spiritual and doesn't resonate on that level and just doesn't have those same belief systems as me, their vibe will not resonate with my vibe, and they or I or both will begin to kind of almost move away from one another. There's almost this subtle recognition of non-resonance. Okay, of that idea that the energy just isn't attracting like actually. But if there's some part of you that does resonate with what I'm saying, if there is some part of you that perhaps hasn't explored as much as I have, or hasn't gone down the path as much as I have, for example, but you can connect, you can understand, there is a part of you that you recognize as spiritual, then talking to somebody who is passionate about this spirituality and is passionate about expressing and sharing and all that sort of thing with you will spark your interest. That's what we recognize, right? It's like, oh, it sparked my interest. That spark is your vibration going ding and raising up a level with interest and wanting to connect in with this energy that it wants to liken itself to. So this is the law of vibration working, and this is again present in and throughout everything. So it says, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Science has confirmed that everything in the universe, including you, is pure energy vibrating at different frequencies. The axiom that energy attracts like energy, upon which the law of attraction is based, has its foundation in this law. Okay, everything that we experience with our 5 physical senses is conveyed through vibrations. This is what I'm talking about. The same applies to the mental realm. Your thoughts are vibrations, which we've been looking at over the past few weeks. So you know that not only does your thoughts now, well, we found out, resonate in your mind and produce a chemical through the chemical receptors, through the pituitary gland especially, and sent them back down into your physical self to manifest a reaction. This is the emotion manifesting a reaction, acting on your energy points to produce some kind of a change, a recognition, some sort of reaction to whatever it is that has sparked this emotion, has sparked this belief system, because your emotions are linked to your belief systems, to your perceptions, but it's also beginning to affect the way you're interacting with your reality, with the world that you're experiencing at that time. So everything that we experience with our 5 physical senses is conveyed through vibrations. And you know as well that when you begin, like when that chemical is sent down and it affects like your heart center, for example, and you begin to feel joy or you begin to feel sadness, that is also going to affect the vibration of you, because if you're feeling sad, then your energy vibration will go lower and it will vibrate at a lower resonance, because that's what negative energy does. It vibrates at a low resonance. Interestingly, so do things like televisions. So, you know, be aware of those sorts of things as well. Televisions, what else? Wi-Fi is a very low resonance. You can think that the whole world pretty much, you know, feels like it's covered in Wi-Fi signals now. I know whenever I go out of my house, the minute I get even into my car, which is parked on my driveway, suddenly my little Wi-Fi thing goes ping, and I've got 5 or 6 options from the houses and the buildings around me to connect with different Wi-Fis. You know, there is an invisible network that is surrounding us all, especially if you're living in like densely populated areas. Probably not so much if you're living out in the middle of nowhere and you've kind of got one Wi-Fi yourself and it's awful and all that sort of thing. I had that joy when we were living in Thailand. We didn't have any Wi-Fi networks around us. We could connect, well, we had one, our neighbor, but his was intermittent at the best of times. We ended up getting these little dongle things which kind of independently connect up with the satellites and give you internet, so that we were able to offer that facility to our guests. But when you turn off all of those things, you have no Wi-Fi. And there is definitely a sense of peace with that. One of the first things I noticed when I came back to this country was when I began to meditate and practice my meditation, that there was this sort of humming noise that I just was really distracted by. You know, having been used to practicing essentially in the middle of the jungle, whether I be inside my house or sitting outside or wherever it was that I was practicing. Essentially, the vibration around me was of nature. It was of the earth, which is a vibration that resonates wholly with our souls, with the way that we vibrate as matter, right? So the most natural vibration to us is that of the earth. That's why it's so special to be able to take off your socks, take off your shoes and walk barefoot on your earth, because you resonate through the vibration of the earth resonates through you, and that energy, that frequency, that vibration is healing. It's taking you back into your natural state. And so that's why it's healing, right? Because it's beginning to vibrate through your body at a natural state, unperturbed, not, you know, able to just permeate through your entire body. Again, things like adornments and stuff like that, just different crystals and things like that can help to even magnify that and draw that in. But again, that's another topic for another time. But it's to know that the same applies to the mental realm. Your thoughts are vibrations. All your emotions are vibrations, where unconditional love, in the sense of love for another, is the highest and most subtle of the emotional vibrations, and hate is the densest and most base. You can learn to control your mental vibrations as well, which is what we call now thought power. So we've been talking about this as well, learning to control and affect your emotions by changing your belief systems, changing your thought processes, and enabling yourself to not just think healthy for the sake of your physical self, but also so that you might be lighter of your mind. Because remember that hate, those lower vibrations, frustration, anger, hate, distrust, all of those things, fear, all of those things resonate at a very low vibration. So what you're doing whenever you're spending more time and more energy thinking about those things is you're actually inviting those lower vibrations into your body. And of course, the more and more you think about those things, the more and more you deal with those things, and the more and more they're present in your lives, the more that frequency resides within you, within your mind, affecting your thoughts, affecting your perceptions, the way you see the world, but also affecting your cellular health, which of course are hugely affected by any sort of vibration. If you just imagine like in Jurassic Park, when the great big Tyrannosaurus Rex is coming towards them and they're all looking into that big imprint of its foot onto the floor, and it's filled with water because it's been raining, and the first reason that they know it's coming is because of the water is vibrating. Well, we're a minimum of 60% water. So if you think that just a subtle doof vibrates water so much, then it's natural that any vibration, any energy vibration that we bring into ourselves, that we attract, that we allow, that we enable through thought processes and magnifying and being, having conscious thought processed onto those things, is essentially you're vibrating through just the water systems in your body and then affecting everything that's reliant on that water, which is the makeup of yourself, your physical self. So everything begins to vibrate through. And of course, if everything is kept at a lower vibration, then you're going to, your cells are going to respond to that negativity. They feed from the environment around them. So the water is saying negative, negative. The cells are responding to negative, negative. And that's going to put them out of a state of homeostasis, which is essentially balance, out of balance, and into a more negative dis-ease state. Okay, so these are the three immutable laws that you just can't get away from, and they just make sense throughout everything. So now we're coming into the mutable laws. So these are the laws that you are able to almost work to your own advantage within the rules of the law, as it were. So the first one is the law of polarity, which, we know to be a truth. The fourth of the 7 universal laws tells us that everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. So like I say, with heat and cold, for example, it's the same thing. It's a magnification, or it's an endorsement of temperature, but it's just to which degree. Whether it's, kind of, if you want to look at like a thermometer, for example, heat being really high and cold being really, really low. It's also the first of the mutable or transcendable universal laws. It means that there are two sides to everything. Things that appear as opposites are in fact only two extremes of the same thing. For example, the heat and cold may appear to be opposites at first glance, but in truth, they're simply varying degrees of the same thing, right? The same applies to love and hate, peace and war, positive and negative, good and evil, yes and no, light and dark, energy and matter. You can transform your thoughts from hate to love, from fear to courage, by consciously raising your vibration. So imagine that kind of thermometer thing again. And imagine that love is the highest, like the heat vibration, if you like, on that thermometer, and hate is the lowest. So by changing your vibration, by beginning to think more on positive things, by beginning to surround yourself with positive things, so that you can gain the energy from that, you maintain an acceleration of your vibration, right? Okay, so you can begin to surround yourself with beautiful things. Put yourself in a really beautiful place. Nature is the best place, right? Because automatically, as soon as you feel that you've spent, say, 20 minutes, half an hour, minimum within nature, you begin to feel better, right? You begin to you can almost feel the effect of that beautiful vibration around you. Then couple that with positive thinking, couple that with some high frequency music or something like that. And suddenly you're on a real healing fix where actually you're raising your vibration way up from the depths of despair and fear and anger and hate, right up towards that unconditional love. And unconditional love is pure acceptance, tolerance without any kind of any kind of condition, isn't it? Any kind of judgment, any kind of, I can love you if, I can only love you if. Unconditional love is just, you are, therefore I love. That's pretty much it. It's kind of like the feeling, I suppose, like I resonate very highly with it being, the unconditional love I have for my kids. They can drive me absolutely mental. Doesn't mean to say I don't think they're not the most wonderful thing in the world. Even if they're expressing behavioral, like challenging behavior, shall we say, challenging for me, they're enjoying themselves. They're having great fun, like, painting on the walls and making potions in the bedroom and stuff like that. It's challenging for me because I attach that behavior with, I don't know, spending money, spending time clearing it up, the defamation and destruction of furniture and of things that we've had to work a lot to be able to buy and all those sorts of things, right? So that's where my reaction comes from. But for them, they're having fun, they're creating, they're doing all this on a high vibration. And that's often something that's worth thinking about when you're disciplining your kids for being, for want of a better word, creative. Right, this is coming from a very high space, this want to be able to explore, this want to be able to feel, to be tactile with their world, with their universe, and this imagination and this sense of exploration is really something that instead of pushing down, we should really be raising up. The difficulty comes, of course, is that actually in the world that we live in, within the constructs that we have created for ourselves, within society and the cultures that we live in, there are, we have created our own sets of rules, our own sets of laws that determine how behavior should be. And you can choose at any time to opt out of those. And a lot of us do. For example, I don't think I know anybody in my life who hasn't done something that's technically illegal, whether it be talking on their phone when they're driving or, taking illegal substances, believing that actually they have the choice to be able to take whatever it is into their body because it's their body, and effectively they have the choice to make that decision. Actually, that's their decision to make. That decision won't be made for them by a governing body, whether or not there is a serious consequence or not. And considering the amount of people, for example, who smoke marijuana across the world, you can see that many people look at the risks and look at the risks of physicality risks, the risks of being caught, of being charged, of being, actually the consequence of that risk, and will decide that actually, do you know what, it's just not, none of those are worth the benefit, the feeling, whatever it is that they get from using this plant. Okay, so that's their choice to make. And this is, sort of one of the things that, you should be able to decide, I believe, as an individual. Obviously you have to be of sound mind. Obviously you have to have been well educated into all the pros and cons of everything so that you go in with a balanced viewpoint. But essentially, taking marijuana, for example, there's not so much evidence to prove that there's even anything too bad with use of marijuana. In fact, now we're seeing with the medical use of marijuana and how you can use the hemp plant and the cannabis plant for healing, to make clothes, to make all sorts of things. The most recent thing that I read about was how you can use it to make like a sort of a form of completely biodegradable plastic. This could revolutionize our world. This is one of the things that we're seeing across the world. It's just this unprecedented amount of rubbish that we have accumulated, that we are still every day accumulating and producing and making. And digressing off the point quite honestly here, it's about time that there was a different thing brought in, that we've used the amazing amount of intelligence that we have on this world to be able to change our situation and better the world that we're living in, rather than carrying on with this destructive course of action that is driven by consumerism that is driven by greed, that is driven by money, and frankly a lack of care or love or association with the oneness of everything. This for me, this is just a given. I mean, for me, plastic should have been outlawed. The minute they found out that it takes 1,000 years for things like plastic bags to disintegrate, plastic should have been outlawed, and all the companies that make anything in plastic should have been, are told basically that they're going to need to find something else that they can use. Same goes with things like polystyrene. But again, this is something for another show. So this is the laws of polarity. So the same applies. You can transform your thoughts from hate to love, from fear to courage by consciously raising your vibration. And in the Hermetic teachings is called the art of polarization. So one of the things when I was reading through this, one of the things I got was kind of how we can rise above these laws, right? How we can begin to utilize these laws. So the principle of duality may appear to be very real in your life, but it operates only in the physical and mental realms, not in the spiritual realm. So where everything is one. Okay, so you can lift yourself up by taking yourself into that space of recognition, of wholeness, of oneness. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says God is above the opposites. So that oneness that we are all part of is above this polarity. If you choose not to be a part of it, you can raise above it. You don't have to feel hate or love. In fact, you can just accept everything as is and not make a judgment, which is essentially either hate or love is a judgment. You can choose not to make a judgment on any of that and actually just accept that it is as it is. And that's it. It is as it is, and it is meant to be this way. This is it. This is perfect just as it is. End of. It's a kind of a big jump from what we're consciously aware of into that realm, especially when you think about something as emotive as say war. That actually war is an expression of one thing. Peace is an expression of one thing, and I suppose it's an expression of tolerance, right? Maybe that sounds too simple, but for me, war and peace are really two polarities of tolerance. You have war because of the intolerance of being able to allow. You have peace because of the tolerance of the mass tolerance of being able to allow. So tolerance, allowance, I don't know. If you can think of a better phrase, please come in. By always placing the all-powerful, all-knowing great spirit of which you are a great part of every one of your thoughts, statements and actions, by always focusing on the good, even when things appear to be going bad, then in time you will rise above the law of polarity. So if you can always begin to understand that whatever happens, good or bad, is as it should be. And since I'm practicing this at the moment a lot, actually, this is actually coming into my own sphere a lot, as I've been getting lots of kind of what I call drop-ins, lots of inspiration, and it's inviting me to ascend. It's inviting me to step up. And I have a lot of limiting beliefs, as we all do. I have a lot of debilitating thoughts. I also have a lot of really good people around me who really challenge me to step up and step into the person that I can, on a good day, if you like, the person that I know I am and the role that I want to play on this earth in this lifetime. So I can really relate to this, because this idea of focusing on the good, even when there's bad happening, is really taking me into a place of accepting that whatever will be, and that I must trust the journey. And that is really, it literally every day it's coming over to me at the moment. And it's just, just trust in the path, just trust in the path. Even like, I've lost a client. I'm trying to launch this thing, and I'm looking to kind of engage more finance and more money and more abundance financially in the sense of money and stuff. And I've just lost a client, and I'm like, you know what? I have to really focus on the fact that the universe is clearing this out the way for me, so that I have the space I need to go forward and still do what this is doing. Even though when I've kind of looked at all the figures and like looked at everything and just thought to myself, okay, I can do this. This is going to be great. It's all a bit on a knife edge, but okay, yeah, absolutely. this is as it is, it will be good, this can happen. And then suddenly I take a bit of a knock, like I lose a client, and suddenly my figures all need to be adjusted, and it's whether I can or can't, will I still be able to manifest it? And as that panic begins to set in, that's the point where I have to say to myself, don't speak to yourself, don't think anything, don't, just accept, just allow, just accept, just know with faith that it is as it's meant to be, that there will be a lesson in here somewhere, that good will come of this, that everything will be good in the end, that everything's kind of going to turn out okay, and just let go of any of that negative thought, because of course that negative thought is the thing that makes you play small, and it will be the thing that says to me, stop, just stop right there, this is getting too scary. You know, moving forward at this pace, even though the universe is just opening up for me, moving forward at this pace, you know, you've had a setback. This is a setback. This enables me to just stop right where I am and perhaps feel a little bit more in, when actually what I can see with my consciousness, with my higher self, is really that actually it's just all opening out in front of me. This is just a little pebble that I have to step over. It's all going to be good still. It's all still there. If I choose to step over this pebble, if I choose to stop and be stopped by it, then that's up to me, right? That's my decision. That's not what the universe is giving me. That's not the opportunities that I have. That's up to me. That's down to me being stopped by this pebble and choosing to allow this pebble to incite me to play small. Okay, so it's massively challenging. It really is. Like I know all this, and again, just when I need it, I'm researching all this stuff. Just when I need it, I am able to lean into immutable laws. I'm able to lean into mutable laws. I'm able to lean into spiritual laws, and all these things being given to me at a time when actually I need them the most. Because I need to be able to trust in something that is above and beyond myself, so that I can believe that whatever it is that I want to manifest is there. I just have to reach out for it. I just have to focus my attention on it, focus my energy, direct myself in wholly in one direction, and not allow myself to be distracted by the little pebbles that may drop in. You know, the responsibilities and stuff of life will still have to be met. The responsibilities that I've taken for the life path that I've chosen will still have to be met. You know, the kids' packed lunches will still have to be done. They will still need to be picked up from school. The dog will still need to be walked. The house will still need to be cleaned. Some of those things are just always going to be there, right? You know, those things are always going to be there, but that doesn't stop you from still reaching towards the greater purpose that you have. And that certainly is absolutely the journey that I'm on at the moment. And it's challenging, but it's exciting as well. It fills you with a sense of life, like actually how alive I feel when I'm going through this, and when I'm talking myself through this and saying, don't play small. This is just a little object. Take a step over it, you know, or step around it, or however you need to navigate this. You know, don't allow it to be that thing that makes you go back into yourself. And keeping telling myself that is my affirmation at the moment, literally, right? It literally is my affirmation. The thoughts coming, the inspirations coming, I can visualize it, I can see it, I can feel it, I can practically taste it. And then there will be something that almost challenges me. And it's like, do you know what? This was meant to happen. I was meant to have these challenges, because otherwise, how would I know that I'm strong enough to go forward? How would I know that I'm able to walk forward confidently and take exactly what it is that I want if I didn't have these challenges? And as I look back over my life, I noticed that every challenge that I've had, on all the different degrees that I've had, I've come out with such valuable lessons. And the hardest lessons to learn, the biggest challenges that I have faced, have given me so much as a return gift, which touches in on one of the other laws as well, but we'll get to that in the end, in a minute. So, but rising above the law of polarity is basically also is just residing in spirit, reside in something that is higher than any of the things that can be polarized, for example. Take yourself up to the oneness, that absolute truth, that absolute knowing, that security, if you like, and hold yourself there. Hold yourself in your higher consciousness. Hold yourself in your oneness so that you can not be affected by these polarities. And you can really stay there in a safe place until it's past, until it's time to come kind of, if you like, back down into manifesting zones. So the next one, number 5, the mutable law is the law of rhythm. The 5th of the 7 universal laws tells us that everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. And so I love this because this to me really resonates with the breath, with, my yoga practice and with pranic energy. We learn how to be able to manipulate the energy sources of your body, be able to raise the energy source of your body, raise your own vibration using something simple as your breath, that kind of, that regular rhythm, that beat that permeates through you throughout your life. And it's, I have such a beautiful, I have a real love for my breath now. Something that was so reflex to me for the majority of my life. Now I have this beautiful connection with it that it reflects back to me how I'm feeling. It reflects back to me whether I've been triggered. It's almost like my best friend going, yeah, that thing, yeah, calm down. Yeah, speed up a little bit. Come on, you're like, look, you need to get yourself fit. It's all of these sorts of things. It talks to me like a little friend. I've become so consciously aware of my breath that it's like my little conscious pal on the corner of my shoulder, or even just kind of right here in my heart, where I really kind of breathe in deeply to that and resonate from that vibration, that rhythm of my own breath, of my own body, of my heart, of everything that connects in with it all. So this is the law of rhythm. It is the second of the mutable or transcendable universal laws and means that the pendulum swings in everything. This principle can be seen in operation in the waves of the ocean, in the rise and fall of the greatest empires, in business cycles, in the swaying of your thoughts from being positive to negative. It's this constant like this. And in your personal successes and failures. In accordance with this law, when anything reaches a point of culmination, then the backward swing begins almost unnoticeably until such time that any forward movement has been totally reversed. And then the forward movement begins again and the process is repeated. So again, I kind of liken this, I suppose, to like, my tattoo of my phoenix, whereby, from the ashes you rise. Sometimes you have to be taken really, really low so that you can really feel how high it is that you can fly following. This is like, one of those little things, those little balls on the thing, you pick it up and doop, 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 until it comes back into one, into self, basically. You knock, 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 and then eventually it all just comes back into one, into self, into the oneness. Okay, that's the immediate vision that I got when I was thinking about pendulums and this swinging force. So rising above the law of division to transcend this swing of the pendulum, you must become aware of the subtle start of the backward movement in any of your endeavors, where it be to improve your health, your finances, relationships, any goal that you may have set in motion. When you start to feel the law pulling you back, or you're drawing back, you're becoming fearful, don't be discouraged. Instead, know that you are at one with the omnipresent, the universal mind for which nothing is impossible. You keep your thoughts focused on your outcome. Fight to remain positive no matter how far back this transitory law pulls you. Even if your efforts meet with failure, find comfort that by virtue of this very same law, the upward motion must start again. So like I say, being taken down in my relationships, being taken down in my mental health, being taken down in my physical health to an all-time low, only allowed me to learn and move straight back up again. Okay, that's how I resonate with this law. That's how I begin to feel like that's absolutely true. I've seen that demonstrated in my life. Sometimes, no matter how much effort you put in, it's your focus wasn't right. Your direction wasn't right. And so it came straight back again. So in your time, perseverance will be rewarded as the backward moments become less negative relative to your previous backward swings, and you raise yourself higher. So eventually you become, again, sort of almost to be able to transcend this law, to raise yourself above it, by staying in your higher consciousness, by taking directive from your higher being, rather than anything that's led by the ego self or the personality self, for example. Just going to have a drink of water, chatting away. Thank you. So the next one, number 6, is the law of cause and effect, which again is another mutable law. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. So this to me kind of relates to the idea of karma as well, that kind of like that whole circle of what goes around comes around. In accordance with this law, every effect you see in your outside or physical world has a very specific cause which has its origin in your inner or mental world. This is the essence of thought power. Okay, we're back into this as well, cause and effect. Every one of your thoughts, words or actions sends a specific effect in motion which will come to materialize over time. So again, the more focus you put on something that you want, and indeed, by its polarity, by the law of polarity, the more thought process you put into something that you don't want. And again, you can feel already how the law of attraction is beginning to permeate through this too. This is your thought power, right? Every one of your thoughts will set a specific effect in motion. There's almost it's like you have that thought, you then have the internal dialogue. That in itself is your thought power. It instigates straight away. You know, this is inspiration, right? Inspire, to create a spiral of events, to move into a circular motion that comes back around to itself. To become the master of your destiny, you must master your mind, for everything in your reality is a mental creation. Know that there is nothing like chance or luck. There is no such thing as chance or luck. They are simply terms used by humanity in ignorance of this law. So chance and luck are the constructs that we have built for ourselves because we haven't understood this law. We haven't accepted this law fully. And so therefore we are trying to kind of reason with our ego mind, and our ego mind says, oh, it must just be luck. This is just put down to chance. The universe is such a beautiful construct that there can really be no such thing as luck or chance. Nothing else has ever had luck or chance permeate through it. The only things that have luck or chance permeate through it are those that we gift luck or chance to as human beings, through the construct of the ego, through the construct of the personality, this idea that we are someone greater than a part of the whole, that we actually have control over everything, which sounds almost scary when you think, God, so I have control over nothing. It's not that. It's relinquishing the idea that you can manifest something to such a high power that you have almost manipulated the world, right? It's that's almost the ego. And if you truly believe that, then everything that you focus your energy into is going to have such a huge effect to your cause, that you're really going to have to kind of watch out as to exactly what it is that you're manifesting, and what it is that your belief systems, the way that your belief systems are taking you. Okay, so really be careful of that. So your intentions are instantly created with the law of cause and effect. So this applies on all 3 planes of existence, the spiritual, mental, and the physical. So this is permeating again through everything. The difference is that on the spiritual plane, cause and effect are instantaneous, which as such means that they appear inseparable, whereas on the other planes, our concept of time and space creates a time lag between the cause and the eventual effect. So instantly in your higher conscious self, you can recognize cause and effect. Boom, there it is. But on the physical plane, on the ego construct, if you like, this may take time to play out. And again, this is why I liken this to karma, because we kind of believe that what goes around comes around, if you like. Um, Know that when you focus on your chosen goals with intention using creative visualization, that what you want to create in the physical world is automatically manifested in the spiritual world. So it's kind of like, so the spiritual world as well is linked very heavily into your imagination, into your creative self. You know, that is the inspiring part of you, is your creative self. That is the part of you that, you know, resonates almost the highest, is when you're in creation. So visualization, being able to literally close your eyes and take yourself into that situation where you're living, you're experiencing, you're feeling that one thing that you want to create, that one thing that you want to manifest, is a huge, huge tool of being able to almost draw that fifth dimensional, yes, you can manifest it straight away there, into the here and now, into the, you know, this is what I want to do, boom, there, I've done it. You know, that simple. I was watching a TED Talk once, and this guy talked about a 5-second rule, which I loved. So you have a thought, and within 5 seconds, you must action it. Otherwise, it's gone. You've lost the power behind it. You've lost the inspiration within 5 seconds. Sometimes it feels like it might even be less. You know, if I don't get it down quick, then it's like, oh, and I have to pause everything, stop everything, and at least write down what the inspiring thought was, what that inspiration was, what that would mean to me. And if I don't start taking actions on it then certainly just the fact that I've written it down hopefully means I won't forget about it, and I put it there for, you know, I put it out there for later. It's you know, it's out there ready to be actioned whenever the opportunity arises for me, or when I have time to come back to it, for example. Perseverance, practice, and continued concentrated thought, you can begin to materialize this in the physical world. So it really is about focus, determination, daily practice, you know, getting yourself out there, really manifesting whatever it is that you want to have in your life, and being able to kind of, you know, it's almost so simple that you can't believe it would be so. But when you think about it, you're already doing all of these things. When you think about it, you're already manifesting the stuff that you want in your life, and you are recognizing and congratulating yourself almost for those things the whole time, therefore re-impacting them and making them much more of a reality day after day after day. The minute you begin to get distracted from something, the minute your attention begins to divert over to something else, you risk the chance of losing that thing. You can liken that to like people having affairs, for example. You know, there's always a reason that somebody has an affair. It's almost hard as the victim, and I've been a victim of somebody, you know, going off and kind of cheating on me. And as the victim, you begin to straight away criticize. Obviously you criticize them, but you criticize yourself as well, which is perhaps the most destructive part of it all. It really begins to break down your sense of self-esteem and self-love, because you recognize that you weren't enough for somebody. And for some reason, we seem to equate what's good enough for one person as not being good enough for ourselves either. And this feeling of I am not enough, of self-doubt, of in some cases as well, goes as far as to like self-loathing, because of course your frequency drops. Suddenly you're in that pit of fear, of hate, of distrust, of self-loathing, and you're not looking after yourself. You know, so you're probably dipping into things that again aren't going to be, they're just going to lower your vibration even more. Things like drugs, things like alcohol, so low vibration. And listen, sometimes, you know, sometimes it's what we want, sometimes it's what we need. It's you know, become certainly through our culture a way of being able to cope with things. But do remember that, you know, don't make any decisions, don't make any life decisions when you're in a low vibrational state, and especially if it's been caused by something like, you know, drugs or alcohol. Try not to engage any more in like the outside world than you kind of need to, because coming from that place, you're only going to absorb and attract more energy of that same. So if you're in a bad place, the best thing to do is to take yourself out and put yourself into a good place, literally physically first. You know, let's start this on your atomic level. You know, even if the thought process is really beginning to get hard for you, do yourself a favor and take yourself straight out to be with somebody who loves you and will vibrate on a high level for you. Put yourself in a situation of joy, of happiness, of release. connect out with the natural world. You know, things like dancing and singing, listening to music that is positive music as well. I'm not kind of really talking about what I would call negative music. There's definitely a place for negative music because it resonates and it allows you to some extent. It's like I was thinking about this about Eminem the other day, right? So I was listening to Eminem's new album, and one of the things that has always struck me about Eminem is what an immense talent he has for words and for poetic construct. Like whether you like the music or not, I've always been drawn in by his lyrics because they express so much emotion, so much feeling, and we can resonate. There's a part of us all that resonates so wholly with these feelings because we've all probably experienced them by the time we get to about like 5 or 6. You know, like we're all disappointed. We've all resonated with hate. We've all resonated with love. We've all resonated with frustration, with anger, even with distrust of people. You know, like it's kids. Like today, I'm teaching children who are like 3 and 4, and they have immediate distrust of their fellow preschoolers because they're always defending something. They're always defending like a toy or a place that they're going to sit or a teacher, you know, or whatever it is that they're doing. There's always that kind of line of defense that's come up, and they're like 3 and 4 years old. So by the time you get to that age, you've already learned distrust, you've learned anger, you've learned frustration, you've learned things like love, you've learned things like joy. You're tapping very much into your creative mind at that age as well, and being able to come from that creative exploratory place straight away. But it is like, you know, you're already very, very aware of those polarities and of the good and the bad. And, you know, and how you choose to respond to that. You've built up a belief system already about it. You've built up a response system already to it. So for a lot of children, when they feel frustrated, they go straight to tears or they go straight to anger, which is why you find that children are either crying or they're lashing out in times of frustration. You know, don't tend to sit down and talk about it. You know, they haven't learned. That's not their belief system. Their belief system is still quite naive, if you like. It doesn't have the ability to be able to empathize or be kind of logical and work out how it is that you really, you know, why it is and how it is that you really like to kind of come across in this situation. It's quite fascinating to watch. But certainly if you carry those behavioral traits into adult life and you begin to apply them to decisions made by adults, then you're going to find yourself in a very, very different situation. So that was the law of, what did I say? I've forgotten it. The law of, cause and effect, yes. So now we're moving on to the last of the universal laws, which is the law of gender. The last of the 7 universal laws tells us that gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. This mutable universal law is evident throughout creation in the so-called opposite sexes found in not only in human beings, but also in plants, minerals, electrons, and magnetic poles, to name but a few. So we were looking at masculine and feminine energy a few weeks ago, probably a couple of months ago actually now on this show. But never did it come across that minerals, electrons, and magnetic poles have masculine and feminine energy as well. So that was something that I was like, oh my God, that's amazing too. Like, okay, there's no denying that now then, because obviously, you know, we are drawn to things because, again, the energy is drawn to like and like, so we're drawn to more feminine things. So if my feminine energy is really resonating highly, I'm going to be drawn to more feminine energy resonation, you know, and the same for masculine. And so that's fascinating to me as well. I just was like, you know, how all this stuff opens up and just like, wow, like what amazing universe. You literally couldn't write it. You couldn't imagine how fantastical our universe is. You just have no idea. The book would take a millennia to write. And maybe, in fact, that's almost one of the things that we are doing with all these lives that we're experiencing, is almost writing this huge universal consciousness book about feeling and about expression, because there are so many different manifests of these things that you would need 7 billion people to be expressing and learning and reflecting back to be able to learn all this thing and to be able to really kind of get your head around it and develop some sort of understanding, right? So yeah, this mutable law is evident throughout creation. Amazing. Everything and everyone contains both masculine and feminine elements. Among the expressions of feminine qualities are love, patience, intuition and gentleness, and masculine qualities tend to be energy, self-reliance, logic and intellect. Know that within every woman lie all the latent qualities of a man, and within every man those of a woman. When you know this, you will know what it means to be complete. So once you begin to accept both energies fully, that's when you begin to work with both energies fully and become a complete energy being, if you like, because you are, when you need to, you're dropping into your masculine. When you need to, you're dropping into your feminine, and you are using those energies to benefit and to grow and to ascend, essentially, you know, to go forward and to transmute all of these mutable laws, these mutable universal laws. So those were the seven laws of the universe. Then there's a little footnote that I made about the law of attraction, which is part of this equation, if you like. It transcends through everything. So it's, I think, you know, you have to mention it, don't you, the law of attraction. So it's not specifically mentioned in these seven universal laws, but simply because it permeates through everything. It's almost like the one universal law. So it's not to diminish its importance, but rather to highlight, because it's the basic law of the universe which runs through everything, holds everything together. It's through the knowledge of the law of attraction that one can rise above the mutable laws of polarity and rhythm and gain a better understanding of each of the seven universal laws. So once you begin to manage your energy, essentially, using the law of attraction, using the knowledge that you get from the law of attraction, the ability to be able to accept that like energy attracts like energy, and that you need to be very, very aware of controlling your own energy, that will then enable you to do things consciously, like support yourself by surrounding yourself with high vibe stuff, whether it be plants, whether it be crystals, whether it be you know, anything, deities, truths, affirmations, powerful statements, you know, whatever it is that you can utilize to raise your vibration. Try to do that at the beginning of every single day. Okay, because, you know, you raise your vibration at the beginning of the day, then actually, you know, you're raising that energy. That energy is always looking for the right energy. It's always looking for that good energy that it wants to align itself back with. And so therefore everything part around you is drawing itself towards the like energy. So you're going to be drawn towards better situations. You're going to be drawn towards positive outcomes. You're going to be drawn towards abundance and everything that has to offer. You know, that's the law of attraction, and you can see how it really works within the dynamic of energy. If energy is constantly looking for something that is like it, then by its very nature, you're going to be drawn and you're going to be taken towards things that are of a high vibe. And high vibe is joy, it's love, it's you know, it's absolute ecstasy. You know, that would be like the highest of joy, wouldn't it? Being absolutely ecstatic about something. You've taken it on board and it just fills you with this joy and with this light and with this love, everything. And that really is, you know, is the ultimate power. And that is the law of attraction. Once you get your head around that and you begin to kind of like, no, actually, I'm staying with the good stuff. I'm staying with the good stuff. I'm not taking myself down and out. Then you're really beginning to kind of grasp the law of attraction, grasp the law of polarity, grasp the law of gender, and really begin to move within those laws, making them work for you, so that you can absorb and you can draw towards you those things that will be good for you and that will keep you in that high elevated state. And when you're up there, you know, spare a thought for the other people that aren't as good, and do another one of those great things, which is to give, not to receive. So that actually takes me very nicely into the 12 spiritual laws of the universe, right? Excuse me, quite dry today. Okay, so the 12 spiritual laws of the universe. When you don't understand the connections between the spiritual laws, you naturally encounter obstacles. You may feel lost, frustrated, confused about your purpose, non-purposeful. And that's really a song, a sad song that's coming from your soul. If you don't feel like you have a purpose, if you're not sure where you're going, that's your soul really searching and looking and stepping outside to be able to incite movement from you to place yourself in a better position whereby this purpose is revealed to you. And certainly, like I again resonate with that wholly, because from the absolute depths of my despair and my depression came the knowledge that I had to be happy, and that I had to do something that was going to make me happy. I had to now move forward with a purpose that was going to make me happy. And I began to sit down and look at what it is in my life that made me happy, that makes me happy, and that I can really continue on bringing into my life purposefully day after day. And that was really the start of my path. I delved into spirituality. I dipped my toes in, if you like, years and years before, like for years and years and years, like for as long as I can remember, really, dipping into storybooks that were really enlightenment or spiritually based, going to, or putting myself in all sorts of situations where I could become spiritually connected, where I could have experiences, where I could enlighten myself, lift myself up, all those sorts of things. As I look back now, I probably wasn't consciously aware. In fact, I know in some instances I wasn't consciously aware of what I was doing, but my higher soul was. My higher soul, my higher self was constantly putting me into situations where I could experience and learn and build a sense of purpose, and recognize the purpose that I had for being on this planet, and for manifesting as I have in this lifetime. So the first law is the law of divine oneness. Okay, so again, we're touching back into the universal laws, the universal law of oneness, of that everything is omnipresence, everything is one. The law of mentalism, if you like. The universe is mental. Everything is just the one thing. This is coming from the universal mind. So it says the law of divine oneness is the foundational law according to which absolutely everything in our universe is interconnected. In other words, every choice, word, desire, and belief you have will also have an impact on the world and the people in your life. So again, you recognizing that you are part of everything, one and the same, and that everything you do affects the construct of that knowledge. Sometimes the impact will be immediate and obvious. Other times it may take a while to manifest, or you might even never really have any idea that it's even occurred. Try to think of yourself as part of everything around you, to live in accordance with this law. We are one, and an awareness of this makes us more. So try to think of yourself as part of everything around you, to live in accordance with this law. We are all one, and awareness of this makes us more powerful as well as more empathetic. So again, the minute that you begin to recognize that you are part of everything, you begin to recognize the power that you have. And there is no way that you cannot accept that anything that is affecting this oneness, affecting this universal power, doesn't resonate through you as well. So this is where empathy comes from, essentially, is this recognition that the sufferance, if you like, of others, right, which is usually where empathy is most easily demonstrated, is through this resonance with the sufferance of others, is also a sufferance for yourself, because you can't not feel what is essentially a part of yourself. Now, on another construct of this oneness, it also, by its nature, allows you to recognize that some of perhaps the worst things that we see in humanity, the worst demonstrations of humanity, are also a reflection of ourselves. Now, we must accept this. You must accept that there is a part of you. For example, one of the things that really creates an emotive response in me via social media is these hunters that are killing these huge and beautiful animals in Africa, like you see this hunter sort of standing over the dead body of a rhino or of an elephant or of a giraffe or of a lion or something, and my heart just breaks that some part of humanity feels like this is an okay thing to do. Me personally, the person that I am and the expression of soul and of oneness that I am, it can't accept that as being a high frequency vibration of humanity, of ourselves. And yet, if you take it back to how I would express that oneness, it would be something as simple as killing a mosquito. This is what Buddhism really invoked for me, was that it was that realization that everything has the consciousness and everything wants to be alive, right? You can take that as comfortably as you want to, depending on your own belief systems and your own mindset. But essentially, killing a mosquito and killing a lion or a rhino or any of those things, it comes from the same place. It comes from the idea that you have the power to wield over life itself, which is essentially one of the most beautiful constructs of our universe. Life is what has been given to all of us to be able to express and to be able to emulate out and experience us through our souls, or for our souls to be able to experience through, if that makes more sense. So as much as I look at these hunters killing these lions, and I am so saddened, and I feel shame, and I feel so much anger and frustration towards that situation, Buddhist teachings in honesty teach me that taking that life is no worse than taking the life of a mosquito. And that would be something, honestly, that I would do as almost an afterthought. That sounds awful, doesn't it? But something on your arm or something, when I was living in Thailand, something on your arm, and or something on your neck, or a buzzing, and straight away you're like that, or you slap your arm because that's, you feel it, and slap it, kill it, because you know that it's going to take your blood and it's going to irritate you. But you know what? Like, that's not my decision to make. It's not a power that I can wield. I haven't given that life, therefore I can't take it away. And I know for those lives that I have given, that it would be the greatest pain in my soul and in my spirit and through my heart, felt through every single cell of my body, to lose that which I'd given life to. So if you think about the idea, if you like, of God, or of a presence that has created everything here, then every single life has been put here for a purpose, and every single life is sacred. And if you think about consciousness, anything conscious wants to be alive because it was put here to live. So by its own nature, it must survive. It needs to survive. It wants to be here. It needs to learn. It needs to experience. It needs to pass that information back to from whence it came, type thing. So as much as I might be triggered by seeing something that I associate with it as being beautiful and majestic and a wonder of the world almost, it really is no different than slapping your hands together and catching a mosquito. And when I think about, some of the things that I've been party to over in my life, like not just killing mosquitoes, but regularly killing animals so that I can eat, and regularly abusing the privilege of having these animals almost at our disposal. It doesn't sit well with me. It hasn't sit well with me, and I have made life choices to accommodate that, because I just can't go through life with that knowledge and not respond to it. But essentially, I can be triggered by this guy killing a lion or a tiger, or a giraffe, or any of those huge, great, beautiful beasts that were just all kind of, wow, that. But it's just the same as killing a mosquito. It's just the same as stepping on an ant inadvertently, just stepping on an ant. Obviously, there are some times when accidents happen, things, you know, you don't mean for anything to happen, but it just does. And there, I think as well, you have to, it's almost like, again, placing your faith in the journey that you're having, that you will learn from that, and that soul will learn from that as well, that there has been a culmination of two souls here, so that something might come of it, so that some experience or some learning or some teaching might come of it. But, you know, in terms of personal choice, if I choose to kill an insect, it's the same as someone's chosen to kill one of these beautiful beasts. And it is. You know, there's no argument for that, really, when you look at oneness and when you look at the wholeness, the oneness of everything. So the next law we come to in the 12 laws of the universe is the law of vibration, which we have touched on again as well in the other one. So I'm not going to go back over that. Then we've got the law of correspondence, the law of attraction. It comes in deeper into more like this. This is tells us that like attracts like. So in order to have the things you desire in life, you have to work out how to vibrate on the same frequency as these things. The more general lesson here is that being positive, proactive and loving attracts more of the same into your life. So there you go. So if you go out with a kind of a bright face, it's kind of that whole thing as well, isn't it? Forcing a smile onto your face. You can feel really, really down, but if you force a smile onto your face and you enact joy, then joy will resonate back to you because of that. You know, because of the fact that you've tried to change your vibration, you've lifted your vibration, you've forced yourself through and upward, and now you're on a higher plane. Meanwhile, pessimism, fear and lethargy will lead you to generate more negative experiences in all aspects of your life. I mean, listen, just by thinking of the way of perspective, if you're constantly thinking negative thoughts about yourself, then you're only ever going to read negative thoughts into your life, right? So that's the law of attraction. The law of inspired action. So I think I touched in on this a little bit, like briefly earlier on, and we're just going to read through it. Law of attraction practitioners regularly say that they wish they'd known about the law of inspired action at an earlier stage. So probably important to recognize. These two laws are tightly bound together, and the inspired action law tells us that we must actively pursue our goals. Many people think that visualizing a goal and developing positive attitude towards it will be sufficient to exploit the law of attraction. However, you also have to take inspired steps towards that thing that you want. Whether it's a big or small step, it instantly helps you to attract that relationship, job, or enhanced abundance you seek, right? So it is about getting the inspiration, affirming the inspiration, taking deliberate action towards that inspired thought, and then maintaining that. So then daily practice, okay, which is essentially what I teach in my coaching. And so this for me is all fantastic because it just re-impacts. This is giving me even more impact into my teachings, into the things that I share, so that, you know, it becomes almost like this is the way we're going to do this. This is the way, and look at everything supporting you around you as well. You know, these are spiritual laws. These are universal laws that are enabling you to achieve whatever it is that you will set your mind. You've just got to believe them. You've just got to believe them, and you've just got to work within the constraints of them. And the more you practice doing that, the more you challenge yourself to believe, the more you practice stepping through, stepping round, stepping over the pebbles, the easier it will become, and the more you will be able to manifest. So that's the law of inspired action. And again, it's kind of like touches back to that 5-second rule, right? That you have an inspired thought, so you have your moment of inspiration, your moment of genius, and then you jump straight into it to get it done. And I personally am trying to do this a lot at the moment. I've got notes and notes and notes all over the place where I'm like taking the dog for a walk. And because I am resonating on a higher vibration, I'm out, I'm with my dog. Today was a particularly beautiful day in October, England. It was beautiful, bright sunshine. It was so warm. It was gorgeous. And it just lit up my entire day right from the word go. And so as that gift of nature raises your vibration, so you then go out like feeling better, attracting more. It's been a wonderful day from start to finish for me, to be fair. The universe has opened up more and more and more, and like I say, the little things that drop in to kind of challenge you can step over them just that little bit easier when the world's moving in a direction that's really supporting you. So that's the law of inspired action. The next one is the law of perpetual transmutation and energy. So that states that everything around us is in constant flux. You can't see all these changes because many of them exist at the cellular or atomic level, but they carry on regardless. So this is the law of vibration, right, which we've touched on already. We've also touched on number 7, which is the law of cause and effect. We've discussed that one, so I'm not going to go over that. The law of relativity. The law of relativity is all about the neutrality of things when seen in isolation. So this I love, and this is actually a really good way of being able to get yourself around something as negative as guilt. Okay, this is something that I go through a lot with my clients, and actually, in fact, I do a lot for my friends as well, where they sort of say to, they'll be moaning about something and they're sitting there negatively, and then they're like, then they'll sort of look at me and be like, oh, I know, I should get over it, shouldn't I? First world problem. It's that sort of thing. But the fact is, the law of relativity means that this is relative in your life. Don't belittle it by comparing yourself with somebody who's going through more, a perceived greater hardship than yourself. They may be going through that, but their perception of what they're going through is going to be very different to the way that you're perceiving it from the outside. So, for example, if you take a poor tribe in Peru, for example, I've never known such happiness than from simple lives led by people with simple lifestyles. And whenever I've lived with them, spent time with them, and I did this a lot traveling around South America as well, I would live with people who had very, very restricted incomes. I stayed with a family for 3 months while I was 2 months while I was pregnant. They had no windows in their windows. They had no panes in their windows. Sorry, they were just literally open. They had one front door which led into like it was a shared house. They had one front door which didn't have a lock on it. They had just sort of curtains coming down from in front of the windows to just give them a sense of sort of privacy at night time, but no panes of glass in their windows. They had no carpets. They had no real furniture. A lot of it was things like boxes and milk crates and stuff like that, with sticks and stuff, through real simple accommodation. We washed up on the roof outside of the particular apartment that I was staying in. They had electric, but they only had it for a certain period of time. So therefore certain things became rituals. So they had electric and they actually had a TV, right? So this is the craziness of it. They do, you don't have a proper bed, but you have a TV. You don't have, proper kitchen or anything like that, but you have a TV, and you've got a DVD player. So this was this family that I stayed with. But these times then when they had the electric, these became ritualistic times for the family and for everybody to gather around and enjoy what they could of kind of like the outside world, their consciousness then permeating out of their environment and out into a greater world, a more exciting world that they perceive were behind their doors. And this was one of the reasons that I was able to stay with them, because they very much resonated with this kind of small white girl as being a link to the outside world that they could dip into when there was no electricity. And so often, I would spend a long time in the mornings and in the afternoons when there wasn't electric. The electric would come on at night time to be able to light. That was why they had the electric. And that's when all the TVs would go on. And often they would go without light bulbs so that the TV could just light up throughout the whole house. And I stayed with them for a good couple of months. And actually, my Spanish got amazing. Amazing. It was amazing then. I've since lost a lot of the ability, but it was amazing then as we conversed and I learned through them and they learned through me. And I would try desperately to kind of learn the language that I needed to be able to share my experiences of life and share the traveling that I'd done around Asia and Australia with them and how I'd gotten down to them and how I'd come to be living there. And wonderful, wonderful people. And one day I really hope that I'll be able to kind of go back there and share some more with them as well. But really a special time in my life because it gave me so much so much opportunity to explore a very simple existence. Something that I wasn't brought up with. You know, if you haven't got window panes in your windows and you haven't got doors that you can lock, you don't really have anything of any value that anybody would want to take, because what is the point? You know, it's that whole kind of, you know, actually those aren't my priorities. My priority is getting food on the table. My priority is being able to, you know, watch certain novellas, you know, which are soap operas, when they come on of an evening, and being able to then live life. So being able to go out and actually experience life out as well. That was kind of, you know, the way that they lived was all about having fun and bringing joy into a very, very simple existence. They recognized that that was kind of the ultimate goal, was really just to be happy, and how they could do that. Now, that wasn't to say that there weren't complications in their lives and that they didn't bring their own complications into their lives. But the essence of their life was about being happy and about utilizing the very minimal of things that they had to ensure that they were happy. And so that was, you know, that was a massive eye opener for me, and a real life lesson that I've tried to carry through my life now. So yeah, the law of relativity really states that what one person's going through should never be compared to what anybody else is going through. It's all about your experience. You know, that's why you're here, to have this experience, to create and to manifest and to experience and to recognize things and to adjust things so that you can change your experiences and to gradually be able to learn the lessons that you need to learn to be able to, I don't know, I kind of think like, just keep the happy bubble, you know, raise the vibration generally. If everybody began to really focus in on raising their own vibration and bringing more and more joy into their lives, then by the nature of energy, by the nature of vibration, everything in the world would be better off. The plants, the sea, the weather, everything, you know, everything would be affected by this. And, you know, the earth itself, we spend so much time taking from the earth, which is all really low vibration stuff, because, again, it's from the construct of the ego, thinking that we are above such things as the oneness of the world, that we're above such things as Mother Nature, which essentially we are a part of and that we are a construct of. So, you know, it's kind of getting your head around it and being able to accept that the more I can put into myself, the more I'm putting into everybody else, everything else, and the quicker we'll all be able to raise to a place of actually peace on earth and actually being able to feel more feelings, being able to connect more deeply with things and being able to see things from a higher vibrational state, which, you know, when you think about what we were talking about last week with Alexandra, and talking about like choosing life paths, being able to ascend into different dimensions, that's the sort of stuff that we're thinking about. That's the sort of steps that we're taking to move upwards and to ascend into a place of being in a different dimension, and therefore being able to experience something else, right? Being able to go on to the next level of experiential life, of vibrational experience. So the law of relativity is really just about that. It's about recognizing that, you know, do not compare yourself to anybody else. Work only on yourself. Spend only the time on yourself. Do not think about other people, what other people might be going through. Oh, that, you know, listen, compassion and all that sort of thing, but don't compare yourself to somebody else in terms of being rich or poor. Just focus in on whatever it is that you want to manifest and whatever it is that, you know, you can bring to yourself with an idea of raising your vibration, raising your happiness, and therefore ascending and growing constantly. We've talked about the law of polarity. We've talked about the law of rhythm or perpetual motion. We've talked about the law of gender. So it's really just about then unleashing your full manifesting potential, which I think we've gone over, haven't we? We've just really begun to come full circle and back to the fact that, okay, so ultimately speaking, if everything is energy and everything is attracted to its own like, then to have the best experiences possible, those that we feel to be the best experiences possible, that were those that we know produce the best experiences in our life, those things that create and recreate over and over again things like love, you know, the highest vibration, unconditional love, that acceptance of everything and everybody and every manifestation and every circumstance as just being part of it all, and being able to accept that with no real judgment. That is unconditional love, and that is your samadhi. If you're thinking from a yogic perspective, that is being able to contemplate and just look at and explore without judgment. And that is the highest vibration that you can raise yourself up to, so that you are in fact vibrating on such a high frequency, or coming up to such a high level, that you are that one thing that is almost absorbing the information that we are all bringing through in spirit, being able to reflect as souls out into the vibrational frequency of the universe. Because there is that one overmind, that oversoul, that higher mind, that higher consciousness that has thought all of this first, right? That if we recognize that as a universal law, then there has to be one thing that has thought everything up already, and everything that we are then reflecting back to it is almost like the dialogue that comes next, right? If we can raise our vibration up enough, we can change everything on this planet. And it all starts with yourself, so that you can see, so that you can feel, so that you can really believe in that one truth, so that you can not only change the world with your belief system, but more importantly, you can change yourself, you can inspire other people to do the same, and then everybody can rise together. Because as by the nature of what we are, by the nature of the universe that we are in, as a one thing, we can only ever go up collectively. We can only ever ascend collectively. So it really is time to hold hands and to hold one another and to hold space for all this to happen. So go out into the world and do random acts of kindness, and go out into the world and do inspire people with this knowledge, and go out there and touch people with your positive energy and affect their energy, and allow them to raise up and allow them to feel good, and just to occupy a positive vibrational state, so that they can really feel and affect that for other people as well. And that way, holding on to that, vibrating constantly at this high frequency, and knowing that every part of the universe has been designed for this. Every law that we've discussed tonight has been designed for this. That way, you know that we'll all be moving together towards the next upscale, towards the ascension, towards the enlightenment, and moving up into the next experiential vibration, the next experiential dimension that we're all then meant to experience. Because it can't, we shouldn't be residing in this suffering. You know, we weren't really built for it. You know, look at it. Suffering kills us. Suffering puts us in disease. Again, it's kind of take it back to that experience that I have of unconditional love, which is for my children. I would never, ever want them to experience anything like that. There isn't one part of my body that wouldn't just lay itself out on the line for them, so that they wouldn't experience that if it was possible. And so consciously knowing that, I choose to parent according to that belief as well. You know, by raising them up, by telling them how wonderful they are, by encouraging them to explore this world and to connect in with nature, and to really feel happy more than anything else. You know, do those things that will make them happy more than anything else. And within the construct of keeping their happiness alive around them, because by the very nature of their bad behavior, they're going to affect everybody else's behavior as well. And that will bring the vibration of the family, for example, within the family unit down. If you raise your vibration, you can raise up everybody else's as well. And that's why it's important as well not to hold on to moods and you know, negative emotions. Don't hold on to them, because it kind of just permeates through everybody else and brings the vibration down. And again, it's hard then to, you know, it's harder anyway to raise it back up again. So don't hold on to things. It's not good for you. It's not good for the energy around you. It's not good for the people around you. Try to let it go. And try to keep your vibration, or keep your mindset as well focused on achieving a happy place and remaining within that place, so that you are able to effect that change in the world that we all want to see. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you've enjoyed the talk. I certainly find it fascinating. Namaste.
Humanity has been on an epic journey of discovery, learning the truth about the world we live in. New discoveries about the true origins of humanity, ancient history, free energy, as well as the systematic corruption of world governments are now on the forefront of our daily reality. Is the world headed towards destruction based on control and power? Or is an opportunity now being presented to shift and uplift into a higher consciousness? My name is Mel V, co-founder and creative director of Conscious Consumer Network, an independent broadcast network that was launched on the 1st of January 2015. In the last 3 years, Conscious Consumer Network has broadcast over 2,800 shows in multiple languages, featuring guests from across the world, whilst creating media that is aimed at the creation of a free, fair, peaceful, just, sustainable world. Conscious Consumer Network provides full training and an interactive support network for all broadcasters, and we are always looking for inspiring and educational content.
Hi, this is Lainey Liberty.
And this is Miro Siegel.
In 2018, Conscious Consumer Network has expanded to multiple broadcast locations, increasing our availability and reach across the world, remaining on the cutting edge of independent media. If we wish to create a better world, we must first create better media, geared towards real education instead of indoctrination. You guys really are what changing the world is going to be about. It's educating kids at a grassroots level. Having become a pillar of stability in the turbulent world of independent media, we have even more going on in 2018. Conscious Consumer Network is a publicly funded network, and we rely on all of you to keep us on the air. Show your support for independent media by donating to our 2018 Network Support Fund. Dare to seek a better world. Support independent media.